Welcome back to Taco Bowler Gaming. My name is Taco Bowler, and we are going to continue our tutorial today, and we're going to be talking about preparing for war. This is the first part of our tutorial section on war and warfare. And right now, I know that playing as the Ottomans, this is the continuation of the diplomacy game, if you were watching that one. I know as the Ottomans, I want to own Constantinople. That is something that I want in order to get my mission. So you can see if I left click there, that is highlighted in purple right now. I want to own that province. And in order to do that, then if I have it, then I get all of these lovely benefits over here on the right. So, how do I prepare for war? Well, the first thing is you need a casus belli. So right now, if I were to declare war, I have not hit pause from the moment I got that claim. So I don't actually have the casus belli. Casus belli is Latin for basically reason for war. It's a few other things. I don't know the actual definition, but it was a term used in Rome as kind of a justification for going to war. And so that has lasted through the centuries, and it's in almost all of the Paradox games as your reason for war. So if I were to go right now, I have no casus belli. That's the only thing I could do. And then that gives me aggressive expansion, which is not good. In this case, a base of 50, as well as lowers my stability and gives me war exhaustion. All of that is bad, right? If you have minus stability, that gives you negative features. You can see that down at the bottom. If you have positive stability, you have positive features. You can see in the middle there. Fantastic, right? War exhaustion as a similar deal. We have no war exhaustion, but if we did have war exhaustion, that produces unrest in our provinces and people will want out. Basic deal. So I don't want that, right? I want to have a casus belli. There are many different casus bellis you can have. So, for instance, let's go ahead and get that one. So we now have a conquest because I've hit unpause after getting a claim. Sometimes it takes to the end of the month, but we now have a conquest casus belli against Byzantium. They own a claim of ours that we have not satisfied. So now I could declare war on them. It would be a conquest CB, and none of those things matter. There's no aggressive expansion for doing this. There's no stability hits, there's no war exhaustion because I have right to do so, right? I have claimed a province, so that is mine. There are some other casus bellis. I have a humiliate rival CB against the Mamluks because they are my rival. And so that has a different war goal. And there are always some things that come along with that. In a humiliate rival CB, you cannot take land of any kind. All you can basically do is humiliate them and take a bunch of money, right? But if I declare that conquest CB, I can take land. None of that is over here, right? And you can see here there's some benefits of it. So I get a 100% aggressive expansion cost, 100% prestige gain from anything in the war, anything involved in the peace deal, as well as 100% cost for the conquest of Constantinople. If there are other CBs, such as maybe a reconquest CB, then some of that would change. I'd have, I think it's 25% aggressive expansion and 75% cost or something like that for the reconquesting provinces, the things that they have a claim on, your vassal would have a claim on. So that's kind of there. Now, Byzantium, I need to make sure that they are beatable. So I know that they have an ally in Wallachia, as well as a vassal in Athens. So I can see that Byzantium has 8,000 troops here, and Athens has 3,000 troops. So that makes 11,000. I can't tell if there's anything here. I can't see anything about Wallachia. So I'm going to go to the ledger, and I'm going to go and I'm going to type in Byzantium. They have 11 as their possible, but they only have 8 right now. But they're going to get to 11 quickly as soon as I declare war. Athens has 4 possible, so that's 15. And then Wallachia has 10 possible, so that's 25. So I want to make sure that I have more than 25 so I can beat them. And there's multiple ways to do that. One way would be to just build your own troops up to 25, which I probably need to do to get to my force limit anyway. My force limit is 34, so I could build 7 more troops of my own and really just, kind of own them. We're going to do that just so that I have that mission complete. If you remember back, the first steps to do in any game were to do that mission. We're going to do that mission just for fun. Another way you might be better than them is if you have equal number of troops, but hey, their military is 3. If I had a military of 4 or 5, maybe my troops would be better than theirs. Later in the game, you're going to want to check not this tab, but the previous tab. Actually, I think maybe that's a DLC. Surely there's not a DLC in the ledger. Yeah, I think. Really? Wow. Well, if you have the proper DLC, you could check the Armory quality comparison, and you could check their morale versus your morale, their discipline versus your discipline, which we'll get to in the next episode or the next part when we're actually fighting the war. But that might be a way to know that you're going to win that war. But you want to, just make sure you're going to win the war. Another thing you can do is to check the placements of your forts and make sure that they are in good places that are defensible. So if you go over here to the simple terrain map mode, which is usually in the top left, that can help you out here. These red things are mountains. If you have if you are fighting a battle in a mountain, or in the highlands, or in the woods, the defender gets a bonus to the combat. So if you can put a fort in a province, then any combat that happens there, the owner of the fort is the defender, no matter who gets there first. But if there's no fort in the province, then whoever is there first is the defender, and whoever gets there second is the attacker. So if I can put my forts in provinces that are defendable, then that will help me, because the enemy is going to have to siege that fort down. And so I will have time to kind of gather my armies and attack them in that fort, but I'll be the defender, right, and get the bonus for that territory. So right now, this fort here is on farmlands. If I wanted, I could go over here to Kerosene, or what is that? Kesrai, and I could build a building, and I could build a castle there. Now that costs a lot of money, and it takes 30 months to do. But by moving this fort from here to here, and usually I would build that fort, wait for it to finish, and then when it finishes in 910 days, you can see over here in the, what's that called? Outliner. The buildings tab is now here, so it's building a building. When that finishes, I would delete this fort, and now, instead of spending a bunch of time sieging this province, they're going to spend a bunch of time sieging this one, and I could attack the fort in the mountains and be the defender and have a better chance of winning that battle there. In EU4, 90% of wars are won before they're even declared by doing things like this. Making sure you have more troops than the enemy, making sure your forts are in a good place. Another thing to do is to check generals. Now, I can't see the Athens or Byzantium generals, but I can see, say, Albania's general. Has got a very famous general, Skanderberg. He's got 3 stars. He's really, really good. If you see down there, leader, there are 4 pips that any leader has. The first one is fire, the second one is shock, the third one is maneuver, and the fourth one is siege. And you can have anywhere from 0 to 6 in each of those categories. In the early game, shock matters most in combat. In the late game, fire matters most in combat. Maneuver helps them move around faster. So by 5 maneuver, even if I were standing and like racing, his 5 maneuver would get him to the next province faster than 0 maneuver from not having a leader. And then siege helps with sieges, which we'll get to when we actually fight the war in the next part. Admirals can have the same. So here you see down there, Venice has a admiral, and so they can have siege. Looks like that might be a DLC thing, but they still have fire, shock, and maneuver. Maneuver is most important in an admiral, in my opinion, because it's going to move the fleet faster, which is vital for sea travel. You get those in the military tab down here. So you see a general. It costs 50 military points. A conquistador, which is done through exploration ideas, which we'll worry about in ideas and colonization. You can recruit an admiral using diplomatic points, or an explorer, which is the exploration one that's also diplomat. And then you could give your ruler military command. This is nothing, costs no military power, but if your ruler is on a siege or in a battle and dies, which every general has a chance when sieging or battling to die, then it costs an extra stability when that happens. So every time your ruler dies, it lowers your stability by 1. If he dies leading a battle, it lowers it by 2. So that's the opportunity cost there. I don't need to do that because I'm the Ottomans. And so we are going to recruit a general. And we have 2 armies. So we can have up to 2 leaders without penalty. So I'm going to go ahead and recruit another general, and I will recruit an admiral. So now a new tab has come up. I have too many military leaders. I have 3, I can have 2. I have to pay an extra 1 military in order to keep that 3rd leader. So it's up to you whether you want to do that or not. Oftentimes it's worth it, but usually it's not worth it for an admiral, right? If you want to get rid of that, you just click this button to fire them, and we will dismiss them, and it'll be okay. And now we're at 2 and 2, and this will go away. So that's kind of that stuff. So let's go ahead and put those leaders in charge. In order to put a leader in charge, you click the army, and then you click the leader, and then you pick the one that you want for that army, and there you go. So you can see that this one was much better. A 4-2-1-1 is much better. He's got 2 stars than a 1-1-2-0. However, in actuality, because his best trait over here is for fire, he's not that much better. But he does have that 1 siege, so that will be very helpful in the upcoming war. Some other things that you can do is you can get your people in place. So I know that I'm going to be declaring war on Byzantium. And they are allied to Wallachia. They have the vassal of Athens. I want to get the allies out as quickly as I can. Now, you can't separate peace. You can't make a vassal quit beforehand, right? But I can maybe put an army right here, and as soon as I declare the war, I can jump across and defeat this army, take out Athens, and then they won't be anything in the war. The other one I care about is Wallachia, which is up here. If you can't find a country, you don't know where it is, you can hit the F key. I don't know how to bring this up otherwise. And this will be a find thing. So if I wanted to find Constantinople, then that's here, and I can click the button and it would show me it in purple. Or if I wanted to find Wallachia, both the state and the country, it doesn't highlight. In this case, it highlighted the capital province. But it would take you to there, right? So if I wanted to find France, for some reason I don't know where France is, boom, takes me there, and it highlights Paris, the capital. So pretty self-explanatory there. So one thing you can do is just get your armies in place, right? I'm going to move him right up here. So I'm going to unpause, and we're going to complete our preparations, right? We have the troops here. So we're going to get the troops built. I'm not going to worry about the castle. That's something for a later war, right? You want to make sure as much as you can. You want to have a fort in your capital, and then all the other forts you want to have on land that gives you the defensive bonuses. So I don't like that fort in farmland. I'm going to try and move it next door, right? This fort is on grasslands. Okay, so there is a thing. France canceled a loan. That is a casus belli. I didn't actually know what this does. So I gave them a loan in the diplomacy thing, and they couldn't pay it back, so they canceled it. They reneged on the loan, and that gives me a way I can go to war. And to go to war, then I get 100% aggressive expansion, 200% prestige, and 75% cost for money. So there's several different things that I could do for money, and that would give me, I would do it for less war score and greater benefits. That kind of thing. Now, you can see here that what you see here is the war goal. In this case, it would be to show superiority. That would mean I have to win battles in order to increase my war score. On a conquest CB, like I have against Byzantium, I have to take the province that I'm claiming in order to gain war score. We'll talk about war score next time, but it's important to note that, you know, I have to gain that province. Mamluks, I had the humiliate rival CB. In order to do that, I had to take their capital, wherever their capital might be, in which case it's Cairo here for them. I have to take that, right? So I have to go all the way down here and take that in order to start gaining war score from owning the war goal. Otherwise, they actually gain the war score. It's not going to be that big of a deal in this war, but it might be a big deal in other wars. So one thing you might prepare for a war for is if I wanted to go to war with the Mamluks, maybe having to get all the way down here isn't the best option. And maybe I want to try and get a claim on something much closer to me that I can take quicker and start that ticking war score, what they call ticking war score. That might be a thing to be worried about, to be doing. If I wanted, I could maybe claim this province from Byzantium. If I wanted to wait to get a second claim, get 25 spy network, get that second claim, I could maybe claim Achaia here, because they don't have a fort. And so I could quickly take that one and then move on to sieging down the forts. Something else to consider would be, what if their allies were just too strong for me? So, you know, if I were to attack, say, England has an ally in Castile, and they have an ally in Portugal. That's a big war, right? England and Castile and Portugal, that's a gigantic war. Austria usually has one. Yeah, okay, so Austria, you can have Austria and Hungary and Burgundy and Bohemia. So like these guys and these guys, that's a crazy war. There's no way I could win that. So something else might be to instead try and get a claim on one of those other nations that maybe would not have to bring in everyone, right? If I were able to get a claim on Burgundy, now I'm fighting just Burgundy and Austria rather than all of their rather than all of Austria's friends. So it might be that might be a reason to go ahead and declare a war without a casus belli. There's no way I can get a CB on Burgundy, but it might be worth it to ensure that I'm fighting only Austria. In this case, they have a bunch of vassals, so that would not be a good thing, but let's say Hungary. Yeah, okay, Hungary. Allied to Austria and Florence, so I could maybe get a claim on Hungary, and that would get me a war with Austria without pulling in Burgundy and Bohemia and the Palatinate and all of this other stuff. Likewise, if I wanted to fight Hungary without Austria, I could maybe declare war on Florence. Florence here, and then I might be able to get with Hungary and Savoy. Now, if you declare war on anyone in the HRE, the Emperor will come in, so that kind of defeats it, but you get the general idea. So in this case, if I were worried about Byzantium's allies, let's say Byzantium had allied, I don't know, the Mamluks, or something like that, then perhaps I would be actually wanting to attack Wallachia instead, and I might want to build a spy network on them to get a claim over here, so I could go to war on Wallachia and pull Byzantium in that way. In this case, it's not going to matter, but that would be something that could happen. You could do. So now I have built to force limit. We actually have reformed the Imperial Army as well. Alright, so in my missions, I did not see that. Total army size of 85% of the force limit gives me a permanent claim on all sorts of areas. Now you find area in the geographical map mode. And so by getting this permanent claim, I get a permanent claim on pretty much all of this, I suspect, from the looks of it. So that gives me that permanent claim, right? So now, instead of just a claim on Constantinople, I have a claim on all of this. I have a claim on Kandar, I have a claim on Karaman. So I could go to war if I wanted. If I didn't want to go to war with Byzantium, get those CBs there. If I didn't want to go to war with Byzantium, they were too strong, I could instead maybe attack Kandar. Right? Now, if I attack them in the diplomacy episode, I gave them military access. Or they gave me military access. So I have military access. It costs me a lot. Right? 5 stability and 5 war exhaustion in order to actually do this. If I were to, however, go to war with Karaman, then it doesn't. Now I have a truce with them, but it doesn't have it from the diplomacy here. So let me go ahead and cancel my military access with them. And we can look at some other things here. So I'm going to get to May 7th in order to send a diplomat to them again. So now, right, now that I have canceled the military access, now I could go to war without anything. Another way that you can maybe put the war more in your favor is that you can call in your allies, right? So every time you try and declare a war, your allies and their allies will each have a question of whether they want to defend or not. So in this case, Ramazan, my ally, wants to go to war with his friends or with his neighbors in Karaman. So if I declare war on Karaman's ally in Kandar, he wants in. So he would join. I can click this button and he will join the war. So now that puts his 6 troops in the war on my side. So if I were concerned about the balance of war, that would be something that could happen, right? QQ, who has a lot more troops, right? 1, 12, 8, 21 troops that I can see right there. They are not interested in it because it's a long ways away. But if I were to declare war on, say, Akwayanlu, they are interested, suddenly, because it's a lot closer to them. So that's something that you could do as well, right? I could get a claim on Akwayanlu. I know that I have both friends in this case would be interested in joining that war, so it would be a lot easier for me because I have that help. I hope that makes some sense. Now on the flip side, vassals will always come in, and that's offensive or defensive. But defensive allies might not. So there are a lot of things that matter for defensive calls. If they are, first off, it's a defensive war, it's a plus 30 reasons to join, period. If they hate me, which Wallachia does, then that's up to 20 reasons to join against me. If someone likes me, though, I don't think I've improved relations with anyone who has a ally besides me. No one has an ally besides me. But these guys like me. So if I were to try and attack the Great Horde, Crimea doesn't have that plus 20 because they kind of like me. Let's see. So you can see that here. Now, Navarra, if I were to declare war on Castile, Navarra has a minus 20 because they're threatened by Castile. Even though they're allied to Castile, they're threatened by them. So they would be more than happy to see Castile lose. And so that's 20 reasons not to. But the 30 reasons for being defensive war outdo that, but maybe I could improve that. If I were to able to declare war on anyone, I could show you. If I had their opinion at plus 200, then that would be 20 reasons not to, and that would be enough. Even if I had their opinion of me at plus 150, then that would be enough, and they would not join this particular war, because they would have 34 reasons to join and 35 reasons not to. I'm actually surprised that England is joining here. So there are other reasons not to join a war. So you can see here, they trust Castile. They have a strong diplomatic reputation in Castile, and it's that defensive war. But England has been fighting a war, and they have their provinces here that are besieged. They have taken loans, things like that. They have war exhaustion, so war exhaustion builds up with every province that is besieged, every fight that you fight, every one you lose. So there are 23 reasons. If I kept waiting for this a little bit longer and a little bit longer and a little bit longer, maybe they would fall more in debt, more war exhaustion, and that might go to a I'm not going to answer the call that way as well. So that is all the things to weigh. And if you're going to prepare for the war, you want to get your armies in position. You want to check where your friends are, where their friends are. See if you can maybe get someone to not join. Like if I wanted to go to war with Castile, I might wait and see, is England going to get to a point where they're not going to answer that call? If that ever happens, then I'm going to wait, and I'm going to declare war on Castile once England won't join, because that is a large nation that I wouldn't have to fight. I'm not going to declare war on Castile, though, because I can't get a valid casus belli. The other thing to prepare for war for, like I said, to move your forts into defensive terrain, and that's just a thing for all wars, right? That will help me in all future wars once that is built. And then the final thing would be to make sure you have the right casus belli, the right war goal. So in this case, it doesn't matter because Byzantium is so weak. But like I said, maybe I want to actually have the war goal be in Wallachia. Maybe I want to have the war goal be in Achaea down here or something like that. If I were attacking, like I said, the Mamluks, I might want the war goal to be up here as opposed to down here. That would be a big time thing, right? The real points for this are if I were to fight, say, Venice. So if you might not notice here, Venice has all of this land. They have this little thing. They have this thing. But importantly, they have Corfu as a vassal. They have this, and they have Crete. I can get a claim on this province here because they border me. I'm here. They're here. I could get a claim on Corfu. I could get a claim on this one, or I could get a claim on this one. If I ever felt that the armies of Venice and their allies were more powerful than me in land, but maybe my navy was more powerful than them, which probably would never be for Venice, but maybe, let's just say it was, then maybe getting a claim on Crete, or getting a claim on something here, because these little red lines can be blocked by a navy if you don't own both sides, and an enemy navy is hanging out over here, then you can't march across that. And so maybe I can get that war score by claiming this, as opposed to something Venice can get to more easily, like this province. So that's just something you can do, right? Get the right claim, put your forts in the right places, get your armies set up, and that will help you win your wars. So we're going to move our troops, and then I'm going to call it for this episode, and we're going to get into the next episode and fight our war. But I have been Takabola Gaming, and join me in the next episode. You see on the left is my most recent upload. On the right is this playlist, this tutorial playlist. I'd encourage you to check out either of those videos, and to like this video, to comment, and subscribe. I will see you next time.